It was May 8, 2023. Two Chinese spies had been tasked with keeping an eye on a small group of important people from Taiwan who were visiting Washington, D.C. Their job was to follow these important people and report back to their bosses in Taiwan if they found anything interesting. This is what the two Chinese spies have been doing ever since the Taiwanese delegation arrived at Reagan National Airport near Washington, D.C. on May 6th. The Taiwanese delegation consisted of 7 people, all of whom were important in one way or another. There was Li Chen, the Minister of National Defense of Taiwan, Wu Si, the chairman of the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, Joseph Wu, the Foreign Minister of Taiwan, and John B. Kelly, the President and CEO of TSMC America. These men met with U.S. officials to discuss important matters such as the ongoing war in Ukraine, China's military aggression in the region, and how the U.S. could help Taiwan better defend itself against any potential attack from China. But China didn't want this meeting to happen. That's why they sent spies to monitor the Taiwanese. These 2 spies, Fang and Zhang, were the best of the best. They had been trained for years in the art of espionage, and it showed. So far, they had managed to stay one step ahead of their targets and had gathered valuable information that they would now report back to their bosses in Taiwan. But little did they know that they were being watched themselves. An unknown person had been following them since they arrived in D.C. and he was about to make himself known. The 4 of them left the hotel and headed towards the White House. The motorcade carrying the Taiwanese delegation was heavily guarded, so Fang and Zhang knew that they wouldn't be able to get close enough to do their job. So they had come up with a plan. While the motorcade was on its way to the White House, they would take a taxi and meet up with their contacts inside the building. Once there, they would be able to listen in on the conversations between the Taiwanese and American officials. With any luck, they would be able to gather enough information to satisfy their bosses. But what Fang and Zhang didn't know was that the man who had been following them, John Clark, had managed to get into the motorcade. Clark was a CIA officer who had been assigned to protect the Taiwanese delegation. He had been suspicious of the 2 Chinese men from the moment they arrived in D.C. and had put a lot of effort into killing them without them knowing it. Now that they were getting close to his target, he decided it was time to make his move. He took off after them in his car, keeping a safe distance behind the taxi. As the driver dropped Fang and Zhang off outside the White House, Clark pulled over a few blocks away. He got out of the car and started walking towards the building, keeping his eyes on the 2 spies. All the while, he was making sure that he was staying out of their line of sight. Fang and Zhang met up with their contact inside the White House and were given a room with a view of the street where the Taiwanese delegation was staying. They set up their equipment, which included cameras and microphones that would allow them to see and hear everything that went on inside the room. They also had access to a live feed of the security cameras inside the hotel, which gave them a bird's-eye view of the entire property. As the Taiwanese delegation started arriving at the hotel, Fang and Zhang watched intently, hoping to catch them off guard. They had been planning this operation for months and everything was going according to plan. Little did they know that they were being watched themselves. John Clark had managed to infiltrate the building and was now standing in the shadows watching them. He had seen them drop off the men who would later be identified as Fang and Zhang and had followed them into the building. Clark was a patient man and he knew that the best thing to do was to wait. He staked out the room next door to the one occupied by Fang and Zhang, knowing that they would eventually come out. And when they did, he was ready for them. As Fang and Zhang left the room, Clark followed them out into the hallway. He kept his eyes on them at all times, never letting them out of his sight. He knew that they were dangerous and that he had to be prepared for anything. As they made their way down the hallway, Clark continued to follow them, staying just out of sight. He knew that they were heading towards the stairwell, and so he positioned himself near the top of the stairs, ready to strike if necessary. When Fang and Zhang reached the stairwell, Clark descended the stairs slowly, keeping his eyes on them. He knew that they were about to enter the stairwell, and he wanted to be prepared. As they disappeared from sight, Clark reached the bottom of the stairs and waited patiently. He knew that they wouldn't be there for long. And when the sound of their footsteps echoed through the stairwell, he was ready. Clark moved quickly, but silently, and soon found himself behind Fang and Zhang. He knew that he needed to act fast, and so he wasted no time. He grabbed the two men by the collar of their shirts and pulled them back, pressing a pair of handcuffs into their wrists. Fang and Zhang struggled against Clark's grip, but he was too strong for them. They looked around frantically, trying to figure out what had happened, but Clark wasn't going to give them any time for that. He dragged them away, still keeping a firm hold on their handcuffs, and led them to the nearest bathroom. He pushed them inside and locked the door, making sure that they couldn't escape. Now that he had the two spies in custody, Clark knew that he needed to act fast. He had to get them out of the building before anyone realized what had happened. So he did just that. He led them away from the hotel, being careful to keep them out of sight. He didn't want anyone to see them because he knew that if word got out that the Chinese spies were in the building, there would be hell to pay. As they made their way down the street, Clark kept an eye out for any signs of trouble. He knew that there was a good chance that the Chinese government would try to retrieve their spies, and he had to be prepared for anything. But thankfully, nothing happened, and he was soon able to get the two men into a waiting car. Clark drove the car himself, with John in the passenger seat. They drove around the city for a few hours, taking back roads and avoiding all traffic cameras. Eventually, they came to a secluded spot outside the city where they stopped the car and Clark got out with the two prisoners. He led them into the woods and dug a hole big enough to bury two people. He then made the men lie down in the hole and covered them with dirt. When he was finished, there was no sign of the hole or the two spies who had been digging it. Clark had done his job well and he walked away from the site, confident that the Chinese spies would never be found. The two spies, Fang and Zhang, were never heard from again. Some say that they were killed by the Chinese government for failing their mission. Others believe that they escaped and went into hiding. But the truth is, no one knows what happened to them. And that's how it should be, because it was part of the job. John Clark had proven himself to be a valuable asset to the CIA. His bravery and quick thinking had saved the day, and he was awarded a Medal of Valor for his actions. As for the Taiwanese delegation, their visit to the U.S. was ultimately successful. They were able to meet with key officials and secure the military support they needed to protect their country from China. The meeting between the two foreign ministers was particularly fruitful. Joseph Wu and Anthony Blinken discussed the importance of maintaining peace and stability in the region and agreed to work together to address common challenges. They also reaffirmed their commitment to the Taiwan Relations Act, which provides for peaceful resolution of differences between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait. Despite the success of the visit, tensions remain high between China and Taiwan. The Chinese government continues to view Taiwan as a breakaway province that will eventually be brought under Beijing's control. In recent years, China has increased military activity in the region and has not ruled out the use of force to achieve its goals. This has created a climate of fear and uncertainty in Taiwan, where many people worrying about the possibility of a Chinese invasion. Nevertheless, the Taiwanese people are resilient and determined to protect their way of life. They have a strong sense of national identity and are committed to defending their freedom and democracy. With the support of the United States and other like-minded countries, Taiwan is confident that it can resist Chinese pressure and maintain its independence. No matter how trustworthy they may seem, they are trained to lie. So it's important to be aware of their tactics and to be prepared for anything. Secondly, always be prepared, whether you're dealing with a spy or not. It is July 2023. Fang and Zhang has been seen again. They know that they have to act more discreet. The Chinese government always knew the mission was dangerous, so it had its spies monitored in case of trouble. Thus, other Chinese spies were able to come to the aid of Fang and Zhang. They are tailing another group of important people as they enter a restaurant in Taipei, Taiwan. The spies have been following the group for weeks and they know that this is an important meeting. The Chinese government has ordered them to monitor the Taiwanese and report back any suspicious activities. The spies sit down at a nearby table and order some food and drinks. They discreetly set up a camera to record the Taiwanese. One of the spies is a master of disguise, and he has a plan to get close to the Taiwanese and gather intelligence. He puts on a fake mustache and a wig and orders another round of drinks. Meanwhile, outside the restaurant, two dogs being walked by a man are paying attention to the restaurant. Those dogs have cameras and microphones. They are recording everything that is being said inside the restaurant. The audio is being sent directly to the Chinese embassy, where it is being monitored by a team of analysts. But the Taiwanese are not aware of the surveillance. They continue to talk about their plans for Taiwan's future. One of them mentions something about a secret meeting with a foreign diplomat. This is exactly what the Chinese spies are looking for. They have been ordered to monitor the Taiwanese and report back any suspicious activities. And this meeting with a foreign diplomat is definitely suspicious. So the spies quickly make a note of this, and they plan to follow the Taiwanese to find out more. The next morning, the spies meet with their handler at the Chinese embassy. They brief him on everything they have learned so far. The handler is impressed with their work, and he gives them their next assignment. He wants them to tell one of the Taiwanese and find out more about this secret meeting with a foreign diplomat. The spies are up for the task, and they get to work. Fang follows the Taiwanese to his home. He breaks into the house and plants a bug in the man's bedroom. He then follows the man to the secret meeting. Meanwhile, Zhang is assigned to monitor the foreign diplomat. The diplomat is staying at a hotel, and the spy plants a bug in his room. On the day of the meeting, the spies set up a camera in a nearby tree to record the meeting. They watch as the Taiwanese and the diplomat meet and exchange information. The meeting is going well until suddenly the Taiwanese makes a suspicious move. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small device. The spy's eyes widen in surprise. He has never seen this before. The Taiwanese uses the device to scan the area for bugs and cameras. He then looks directly at the spy and smiles. The spy freezes. He has been discovered. The Taiwanese quickly runs away, followed by the diplomat. The spy is left alone in the tree with the camera. He quickly deletes the footage and runs away. The Taiwanese and the diplomat meet up with the rest of the group. They had managed to shake off the spy, but they are not safe yet. The Chinese government is watching their every move, and they will stop at nothing to find out what the Taiwanese are planning. The tension is building and the stakes are high. What will the Taiwanese do next? Will the Chinese government ever find out their secrets? It's important to be aware of their tactics and be prepared for anything. Whether you're dealing with a spy or not, it's important to be prepared for anything. Make sure you have the right information and resources to protect yourself and your assets. Finally, don't underestimate your enemies. Spies are professionals, and they are often smarter and more resourceful than you think, so don't underestimate them. Be aware of their capabilities and be prepared to counter their moves. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another exciting episode. Until then, stay safe and keep monitoring.